authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red!
This is James Harrell with NP Dodge Real Estate. When I became a licensed realtor, I wanted a brokerage that would help me grow in my new career. I found that in Lincoln First Realty. When Lincoln First was acquired by NP Dodge, the training and support I received only got better. I love knowing I have the power of the NP Dodge brand behind me. I would recommend NP Dodge to new agents looking to jumpstart their real estate career and to current agents who want to take their business to the next level.
Expand your career with NP Dodge. Call Eric at 402-434-2222.
Ever wish you had another light switch on the other side of the room on a dark night? How much better would you sleep at night if you had a ceiling fan in your room? The High Electric Service Department is here to make your electrical what-ifs a reality. Whether you're looking to replace some outdated light fixtures or brighten up your counters with under-cabinet lighting, High Electric can handle all types of residential electrical installations and services. Give Erica a call at 402-466-6606 or visit high-electric.com to get started.
In every office, there's two types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels & Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday, you lost Wednesday, you're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels & Joe.
Golfing in 72 degrees and perfect conditions in Nebraska doesn't seem possible in the winter, but it is. Double Eagle Golf is your escape from the bone-chilling cold outside and a reason to keep your clubs out year-round. Book a bay with some friends for a weekend or come by for golf and happy hour on a weekday. Spring leagues begin in February. Get signed up today. That's all at Double Eagle Golf inside the Kinetic Sports Complex at West O Street. Online at doubleeagle.golf.
When you need a new water heater, nothing beats the ProLine family of water heaters from A.O. Smith. ProLine models are built using commercial-grade components, meaning they're built to help you tackle your toughest days. No matter if you need a gas or electric model, A.O. Smith has a ProLine unit for you. A.O. Smith, innovation has a name. Call Bryant at 402-467-1111 for a great deal on a water heater today. Again, that's 402-467-1111.
Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym goers. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Cobble Chevrolet GMC, and we wanted to give a special shout out to all of our great customers, thanking you all for a record-setting year in 2024. Now let's get the new year rolling with some big savings. Right now at Cobble, we have some of the biggest discounts in the area with over $12,000 off list price or 0% APR on select new models. So stop on in the dealership or hit us up online at cobblecars.com to get true low country overhead in action. $12,000 off list or 0% APR right now at Cobble. So please stop on in or visit us at cobblecars.com. You'll be glad you did.
If you're sick of catering from the same places every month, it's time to switch things up. Mulberry Barbecue is perfect for business lunches and dinners, family gatherings, holiday parties, wedding receptions, rehearsal dinners, and so much more. Delivery and full service options are available, and they can cater for anything from 10 people to 500 people. Call them at 402-937-7114 to hear their menu options and get your catering booked today. Mulberry Barbecue, located at 11th and Cornhusker Highway.
Welcome in to the Corner 3, taking you around the arc of college basketball. From the NAAC to the Pac-12, the WCC to the SWAC. We cover it all now on 93.7 The Ticket. Here is your host, Austin Oerman.
That's right. Welcome into the show. It is a Friday night at 6 o'clock, which means we are talking college hoops for the next hour or so here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. We are also streaming worldwide on our free app for your phone, as well as on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Allo channel 961. Big thanks to all those great people over at Allo, Starter Heyman Jewelers as well, for everything they do for us here at The Ticket. If you have thoughts on anything that we're going through tonight, we would love for you to be a part of the show. 5685. That's the number to the Starter Heyman Jewelers live text line. What's on tap tonight? We will start off with the Fred Hoiberg All-Stars. Last week, we did the Big Ten All-Stars, right? Big Ten East versus Big Ten West, just like NBA East versus NBA West. And if you missed it, Rico and I took you through the NBA starting pool for the All-Stars, drafted those teams. That was a fun segment at 3 o'clock. Like I said, last week on the show, we did the Big Ten All-Stars East and West. But today we narrowed it down to just Fred Hoiberg. His 5 years at Iowa State, his 5 years and change at Nebraska. Just put together a starting lineup of the best players that Fred Hoiberg has had, rounded out the bench a little bit. And I think there's some big picture takeaways from this list that might explain the direction Nebraska might look to head again. And to be fair, I'll preface that conversation with the Big 12 that Fred Hoiberg first coached in is not the same league, not the same situation, not the same landscape as the current Big 10 that he's coaching in. But I do think that maybe there could be an avenue for Nebraska to go back to Fred Hoiberg's roots. What kinds of players made him successful? How did they work together in that scheme? Can Nebraska get back to that in years to come? Obviously, the Husker season is not over, and we'll talk about the next game on tap, a road date with the Badgers. Nebraska at top 25 rated Wisconsin. That'll be a Sunday game. Don't forget that we will have post-game after that game right here on 93.7 The Ticket, thanks to the great people over at Wall-to-Wall Wine and Spirits, as well as Action Heating, Plumbing, AC, and Electrical. So big thanks to them for all they do for us as well. First question, just get the ball rolling here as I go through kind of the methodology. Who's the best player Fred Hoiberg has coached in college? Obviously, he coached some pretty darn good players with some pretty darn good careers in the NBA, but across his time at Iowa State and Nebraska, who's the best player that Fred Hoiberg has coached? Let me know your thoughts, 402-464-5685. But as I went through the Fred Hoiberg All-Stars, what I tried to do was not give out legacy awards, right? Oh, yeah, this guy has a good reputation. This guy meant a lot to Fred Hoiberg. But actually look at the numbers on a year-to-year basis and figure out for these guys, what was the best version of them as a player under Fred Hoiberg? What was their best statistical year? What was their best impact, their most impact on the game? And some eye test as well. Some of these guys in his early Iowa State tenure, little fuzzy on, had to go back and watch some highlights and won't know nearly as much as some of the Nebraska guys that will certainly feature on this list. How prominently, I will keep you waiting with bated breath to find out. But he had to go back to the stats. He had to go back to the eye test, I think, for all of these. And so I'm just going to start off with the options for the point guard position here, going just a typical 1 through 5 lineup here, not ball handlers, wings, bigs, anything like that. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down the positional spectrum. The options that I came up with were Monty Morris in 2015-16, Deontay Garrett in Fred's first year at Iowa State, and then DeAndre Kane in what might have been Fred's best year at Iowa State, 2013-14. I did throw Alonzo Verge in there just kind of as an honorable mention. He's down the list. I do still think that we slept on what Alonzo Verge brought to the table for that Nebraska team a few seasons ago. We'll just get him out of the way here quickly. 14 points per game, 4.5 rebounds per game, and 5.5 assists per game. I mean, he was one of the leading assisters in the Big Ten Conference that year. Obviously, early in the year, it was bumpy for Alonzo Verge. Took him in Nebraska a while to get things sorted out. But once it started clicking for Alonzo Verge, he was a really good, really fun player to watch for Nebraska. Shooting numbers were a little bit all over the board for him. He was Nebraska's second leading scorer, one of only 2 guys in double figures. 77% free throw shooter, only a 32% three-point shooter. But he was quick with the ball in his hands. He was a good decision maker with the basketball. For the most part, I mean, did average 3.4 turnovers per game. Nebraska asked a lot of him, and that was a rather turnover-prone team that averaged about 12.5 per game. So not a quintessential take care of the ball point guard. He looked to score a little bit too much early in the year. He got some things figured out, but he's not my pick for point guard. So the other options, just kind of in chronological order here. So Deontay Garrett, Fred's first year in Ames, he had Deontay Garrett on the roster. Deontay Garrett that year averaged, 17 points, 6 assists, and 4 rebounds per game. He had been at Iowa State for 3 years before that, played all 32 games, started 4 of them as a freshman, and then played every game from there on out, all 32 games the next 3 years. Started all but one of them. He missed one game starting in the 2010-11 season. But Deontay Garrett was asked to do a lot for that roster that ended up 16-16 overall, just 3-13 in a pretty darn good Big 12. But again, 17 points per game for Deontay Garrett. He led the Big 12 in assists with 16 per game and also played 36.7 minutes per game for Fred Hoiberg's first team. They went on a long losing streak, basically up until they beat Nebraska, actually, in the end of February, had a little bit of a break, and then beat Colorado and lost their last 2 games. Deontay Garrett was a name I had forgotten. Diving into the stats and the role, he was pretty darn good. The next guy on the list, though, 2013-14's version of DeAndre Kane. That's a guy that when we bring up some of the best players in Fred Hoiberg's tenure as a college coach, is a guy that we gloss over a little bit. DeAndre Kane started his career out at Marshall. He was there from 2011 to 2013. 3-time All-Conference USA selection. He was the Rookie of the Year in 2010-11, All-Tournament team once as well. He transfers to Iowa State between the 2012 and 2013 seasons. And DeAndre Kane, his 1 year at Iowa State, 34 minutes per game, starts and plays all 36 games. He shoots 48% overall, 40% from 3, 51% from 2. He led the Big 12 Conference in assists with 5.9 per game. Also grabbed 7 rebounds per game to go along with 17 points as a guard. That was not a roster that was devoid of talent by any means. You have Melvin Ejim there as a senior, a guy that grew up in that Iowa State program who we'll get back to in a little bit. George Niang was a sophomore on that team. Naz Mitru-Long, Monty Morris was a freshman on that team, and Matt Thomas was a freshman sniper. And it makes sense that team ended up 28-8, finished 3rd in the Big 12, and lost the heartbreaker to UConn in the Sweet 16. I think that's still probably the best team Fred Hoiberg has ever coached in college, and it was a darn good unit. Keyed by DeAndre Kane, a guard wearing number 50. You definitely don't see a lot of that. Then the other option I have for point guards in the Fred Hoiberg tenure, it's Monty Morris in that 2015 and 16 season. That was another team loaded with a lot of future NBA players. They go 23-12 overall, 10-8. They also lose in the Sweet 16. They kind of get clamped down on by Virginia in an 84-71 loss. But that year, George Niang, the leading scorer, 20.5 points, 6 boards, 3 assists per game. This might have been Monty Morris at his best for Iowa State. Averaged 14 points, 4 rebounds, and 7 assists per game. 7 assists per game to lead the Big 12 Conference. He led him the year before as well. But not only did Monty Morris, dish out 6.97 assists per game, he only turned the ball over 1.6 times per game. For as much as Iowa State asked of him that junior year, I'm scrolling down to try to find the exact numbers here. Monty Morris's usage percentage as a junior was 18.4, which is telling you he wasn't finishing a lot of possessions by drawing a foul or shooting. It would go up the next year to right about 23%. But Monty Morris really didn't turn the ball over relative to how much he had the ball in his hands. He was a wizard at taking care of the ball, and I think Nebraska kind of needs to get back in and find a Monty Morris. Whether it's in the transfer portal or in the developmental cycle, Monty Morris ended up shooting 78% from the free throw line for his career, but 38% from 3. That's what Nebraska needs to be looking for at a point guard, is the guy that takes care of the ball, that can break his guy down off the dribble, is a pass-first distribution type of point guard, but then can hit the spot-up threes, right? Monty Morris wasn't asked to create a lot of offense for himself. He was asked to create for others, and he did that at a rate, at a mark that was one of the best that Fred Hoiberg has coached in college, dating back his entire time. So Fred Hoiberg All-Stars, when it comes down to it, I give DeAndre Kane the nod at the point guard position. I really do. And then a close second is that 2015-16 Monty Morris year, and then I'll throw Deontay Garrett in there as the honorable mention. Shooting guard, for me, without trying to be a prisoner of the moment and rely too much on recency bias, I did give the nod to Keisei Tominaga and what he was able to do in his final season at Nebraska just last year. Averages 15 points, 2.3 rebounds, 1.4 assists per game. He shoots 37.6% from 3, 88% at the free throw line. 58% on twos. We know Casey's limitations, and Nick and I talked about this a couple days ago during On the Block. Casey was a unique player. He and Rink Mast were Nebraska's identity last year, more so than I think a lot of people realized at the time, myself included. A lot of bailing out from those two guys for the rest of Nebraska's roster, especially on the offensive end. What Casey was able to do as a shooter comes to mind. The hot streak that Casey was able to go on was absolutely incredible. And yeah, he wasn't the most consistent guy. There were ways to shut him down. But when you didn't shut him down for one possession, you weren't shutting him down for 5 possessions. And I think what he brought to that Nebraska team specifically is kind of underrated now. Even just a year later, I don't think we all realized collectively what the impact of a loss like that would mean for the Huskers. The other options that I came up with for the shooting guard position, Nazmitru Long, his senior year in 2016-17 was pretty darn good for Iowa State. At least I believe that was his senior year. Yes, that was his senior year. So he and Monty Morris both had their senior years at the same time. Nazmitru Long ended up with 15 points, 5 boards, and 3 assists per game. Good player, solid player, fun player. But I don't think his impact for that Iowa State team, he wasn't the identity of it. As a Monty Morris team, as a Deontay Burton team a little bit. Matt Thomas was certainly a big piece in that as well. Nazmitru Long was vital, but I don't think he meant the same as Keisei Tominaga did. Tyrus McGee in Fred's third year was pretty fun. Matt Thomas that same year, again, a guy I just brought up, what he was able to do shooting. I think that was the year that Matt Thomas ended up shooting 44% from three. Let me see if I can get that pulled up really quickly. Matt Thomas is a guy who stayed at Iowa State his whole career, started 15 games as a freshman, came off the bench every year, every game as a sophomore, got into the starting lineup again for the most part as a junior. And then, yeah, he shot 44.5% from three that year for Iowa State. A lot of those set up by Monty Morris, who averaged over 6 assists per game that year. I just think what Keisei meant to that Nebraska team, how he went about it as a shooter, as a secondary or tertiary ball handler, as a cutter, had a lot of huge plays for Nebraska at different points throughout the year. Kind of bailed him out against Northwestern here at home with a funky shot. The Indiana games, especially in the Big Ten tournament, are the ones that come to mind for me for Keisei. And of course, who could forget Purdue, right? Hitting the three, the hands over the ears that became the meme that lived in infamy for Nebraska for a while. So far in the backcourt, I've got DeAndre Kane and Keisei Tominaga. Small forward was an interesting one. I was really down to 3 names. The first name that I put on the list, going at this from the Nebraska perspective, was Bryce Williams last year. Bryce he's a 2 or a 3. I'm still trying to figure out where Bryce is best. I think Nebraska might be still trying to figure that out. But Bryce was Nebraska's second leading scorer last year, their third leading rebounder, and also had tied for the second most assists on the team. Right? That's an important player. That's an important piece. When he was playing a lot of point handling the ball, maybe more than he should have, didn't get nearly the off-ball reps. But I still think you can slot Bryce Williams in and not get, laughed out of here by putting him at the small forward position. Last year for Nebraska, again, 13 points, 5.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists per game for Bryce, who ended up shooting 44% overall, but 39% from 3, 48% from 2, and a cool 84% at the free throw line. Bryce Williams was really good last year in the role that Nebraska asked him to play. But I don't think that he is my choice for the all-star at the small forward position. I go back to some earlier Fred Hoiberg teams for that answer. The first option, like I brought up, was that 2013 and 2014 year from Melvin Ejim. That was his senior year. He was 6'6", 220 at the time, put up almost 18 points. He was at 8 rebounds and almost 2 assists per game. The role that he was able to play for that Iowa State team offensively was huge, was certainly a piece of that defense as well. 2013-14, Melvin Ejim was the Big 12 player of the year, not DeAndre Kane. It was Melvin Ejim. Obviously, all-tournament team is the second year being an all-Big 12 player, ends up as a second-team All-American by a couple of different outlets. Not only the 17, the 8, and the 2 for Melvin Ejim, but his effective field goal percentage of 55.5 is incredible. That's a guy who really had to work on his shooting. He was a 70% free throw shooter basically across his career, got it up to 76% as a senior. But his 3-point numbers, right, from shooting 23% and 22% his first 2 years on campus, he was a moderate volume guy as a senior, taking about 3.5 attempts per game and hit him at a 35% clip. That's respectable for everything he meant for that team on the defensive end, where he had about 2 stocks, 2 steals and blocks combined per game, along with everything he was doing for that team on offense. Melvin Edgem is in the conversation. And the other guy that I think we have to go to in this conversation would have been in Fred's second year, and that's Royce White. 6'8", 270, pretty traditional 4 in a lot of ways. He led that team in scoring, in rebounding, and assists as a sophomore transferring in from Minnesota. 13.5 points per game, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists for Royce White, who makes the Big 12 all-freshman team, 2011-12 all-Big 12 player as well. Because he did still, sophomore, I don't know why that says freshman team on it when he was listed as a sophomore. But again, a guy that didn't take many threes, pretty traditional when it came to the 3 or the 4. I listed him at the 3 because I think there's a couple more interesting options at the 4. You can't go wrong if you tell me Royce White is the small forward or the power forward. I stuck him here, but I do end up going with Melvin Edgem there as my small forward for the Fred Hoiberg All-Stars. The power forward position was one that I don't think there was much competition for, and that's Georges Niang. What Georges Niang did in the 2015-2016 season was incredible, and that's a guy that got brought up a lot when Fred Hoiberg first got to campus. Can Nebraska find this guy? Can Nebraska find this guy? And of course, a lot of Husker fans wanted it to be Isaiah Roby, who didn't stick around, right? Who declared for the NBA draft instead and is still chasing his professional basketball dreams as far as I know. But this 2015-16 year was Georges Niang's senior year, where he goes for 20.5 points, 6.2 rebounds, and just over 3 assists per game, right? He's that matchup guy, that identity piece that every team is looking for, and especially these Fred Hoiberg teams. He's a big man, but he's not oversized. He's a post guy, but he can step out to the perimeter. That year in 2015-16, Georges Niang, his field goal percentage overall, 54.6%, but he shot 39% from 3 on 4 attempts per game at 6'8". He also made 60% of his twos and 81% of his free throws. That's why there was so much conversation about Nebraska finding the next Georges Niang. He was really freaking good. Second team All-American by a lot of outlets. One outlet even had him as a first team All-American. I think that was the Wooden. He was a Wooden All-American first teamer. Basketball Writers Association had him second. Sporting News had him third. Basketball Coaches had him second team. And then the AP All-American team had him as a second team player as well. But he plays 33 minutes per game. He shoots 40% from 3 as a 6'8" kind of stretch 4 guy. What he meant to that Iowa State team, he was the identity of that team, right? Pairing him up with Marcus Morris, what those two guys were able to do with contributions on the outside from Abdel Nader, Matt Thomas, and Naz Mitchell-Long again in his senior year. And the other guy that I put in consideration for the power forward position is a name that I don't know if has ever been brought up on these airwaves, so I'm going to do it here. Jameel McKay. That's a guy who was with Iowa State for just 2 years. I believe he transferred in from a junior college. He was the defender for that team. He was the 2014-15 Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year and also made the all-defense team that year, obviously. He averaged about a block and a half per game in that 15-16 year after averaging 2.5 the year before. Also about half a steal per game. Really traditional power forward, could lock you up inside mostly. Not horrible on the perimeter. I mean, at 6'9", 215, that's pretty athletic as well. Not enough of an offensive impact for me to really consider him as the no doubt all-star, just because of what Georges Niang meant to Fred Hoiberg's 2015-16 team and really his entire tenure at Iowa State. But for the big men, for the centers, it came down to a couple Nebraska guys for me. Do you take Derek Walker's 22-23 or do you take Rink Mast's 23-24? Again, just like I got done saying with Georges Niang. Oh, shoot, I can't even do 15-16 because that was Steve Prom. Oh, I went a year too far. Shoot, I have to redo this on the fly. Yeah, I guess I got to go with Georges Niang from 14-15 is what I got to do. I think I clicked the wrong button. Yeah, still really good for Georges Niang, 15-5 and 3. And I still think he would be be the answer. He would still be the call for the power forward. I just chose the wrong year. So that is my bad. My apologies, Husker fans. But it is still George Niang is the all-Fred Hoiberg all-star. But then again, it comes down to, for me at the center position, do you go with Derek Walker's 22-23 or Rink Mast's 23-24? The case for Derek Walker is the identity case, right? He was doing something that not a lot of Fred Hoiberg centers had ever done before. He kind of remade himself into this, not perimeter-oriented, but not just low-post-oriented big man. Derek Walker averages 13.5 points per game to lead Nebraska, leads them in rebounding with 7 per game, and also leads them in assists with an even 4 per game, just ahead of Sam Griesel at 3.8 per game. What Derek Walker meant to Nebraska as the hub of that offense, the way Nebraska played through him, you saw the burgeoning chemistry with him and Keisei Tominaga, especially as the year went on, was incredible. That was a Nebraska team that didn't have Derek Walker to start the year. He missed the first few games, came back when Nebraska was at their multi-team event. Derek Walker frustrated me at some points because he didn't always finish like you thought he would. The free throw numbers certainly weren't great for Derek Walker, only 52%. But again, if you end up shooting 58% from 2 in a year, you average 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and about a half steal and block per game. That's some pretty darn good work. But did Derek Walker mean more to 2022-23 Nebraska than Rink Mast did to 2023-24 Nebraska, right? Rink Mast was the 3rd leading scorer on that team, the leading rebounder, and the leading assister as well. It's a tough call because they were used similarly, and yet they were incredibly different at the same time. If you hold my feet to the fire, I think Derek Walker and Rink Mast meant pretty much the same thing to their teams. And I don't want to slight Rink Mast for being surrounded with better fits and better talent. But let's not forget in 22-23 that Nebraska lost Emmanuel Bandamel to the knee injury, and they also lost Juwan Gary to the shoulder injury. I think how Derek Walker was able to continue his reinvention, who was able to continue to carry the load despite Nebraska missing 2 starters for most of the year. I mean, after the 17th game, Bandamel ended up playing in 20 games, which was a few more than Gary, who only ended up playing in 17 of them. Nebraska was down a couple big transfer portal acquisitions, a couple of starters. And Derek Walker said, nope, don't care. We're going to make this work. You can keep playing through me, coach. So I do give the nod to Derek Walker, my Fred Hoiberg all-star center. Even if in a vacuum I prefer Rink Mast game, I just think what Derek Walker was able to do to help elevate that 22-23 team deserves a little bit more of the nod. So my final Fred Hoiberg all-star starters: DeAndre Kane from 2013-14, Keisei Tominaga from 2023-24, Melvin Ejim from 2013-14, George Niang from 2014-15, and Derek Walker from 2022-23. Backups for me would be Monty Morris in 2014-15. We'll go with the Naz Mitru long year. We'll go Royce White in 2011-12, Jameel McKay, and Rink Mast for the backups. And if you have me throw 2 more guys in, I will go with Deontay Garrett and probably Bryce Williams. I think I go with Bryce Williams for roster balance and because of just how good he was transferring up from Charlotte last year. Let me know your thoughts. Did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? The best players, the best all-stars for Fred Hoiberg. We'll go to break. I'll get your thoughts on that. If not, we'll dive into Nebraska, Wisconsin. What do the Huskers have to do to get off their 5-game schneid? Can they get it done on the road in Madison? All that and more ahead on the Corner 3.
Discover the difference that expertise and experience can make in your real estate journey with Next Ag Appraisal and Realty. Whether you need an appraisal, sales, or farm management, Next Ag comes up with a solution with your legacy and goals in mind. Next Ag isn't just their name, it's your future. So why wait? Visit their website today at www.nextagrealestate.com or give them a call at 402-380-0432 and turn your dreams into reality. Your land, your legacy, their solution. Next Ag Appraisal and Realty.
Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services is here to help you protect things that are most important to you. Whether it's your home, your family, or your future, Jack Russell has the proven experience to get the job done while developing authentic relationships with you. Give Jack a call today at 402-421-9100. Again, that's 402-421-9100 and learn how you can excel in the complicated world of insurance. Jack Russell of Farm Bureau Financial Services, a trusted and well-respected representative since 1999.
Let me introduce y'all to my canes. We got chicken fingers. They hit the spot, baby. Fries are golden crispy, Texas toast crunchy, and they cane sauce creamy rich. One love.
When you were a kid, clubs were cool. Robotics club and space club and stuff like that. But what do adults get? Book clubs and quilting clubs? Nah, forget that. How about margarita clubs and old-fashioned clubs? Get to Upside Bar and Lounge for the best clubs in town. Try all 10 varieties of Upside margaritas or old fashions and take home a free souvenir glass. Grab the whole crew and pair it with taco night on Mondays or whiskey Wednesdays. Upside Bar and Lounge at 29th and Pine Lake.
Be sure to check out the top-selling Recomp. Recomp helps build lean muscle and strength while decreasing body fat. Recomp is ideal for men and women of all ages trying to look their best. Recomp can only be found in Nutrition Authority. For info, visit mynutritionauthority.com.
Right now, when you drive by Honda of Lincoln, you'll see more than 200 new Hondas and over 125 pre-owned vehicles. Hi, Charlie Stone here, and with me on the line is Andy Goodyear of Honda of Lincoln. Andy, how does it feel to have so many vehicles in stock again for your customers?
Charlie, it feels amazing to see how excited our customers are. They love the ability to see, test drive, and take immediate delivery of the exact new Honda they're looking for.
Do you have some good offers to talk about?
We sure do, Charlie. We're offering financing as low as 0.9% APR up to 72 months, or great lease rates on every new Honda. It's the perfect time to drive away in the new Honda you've been dreaming of.
How about pre-owned, Andy?
We have over 125 pre-owned and certified pre-owned vehicles to choose from. Just about every make and model with prices starting at under $10,000.
Maybe it's time you experience the best, the Honda of Lincoln way of doing business. 27th and Yankee Hill Road, or online at hondaoflincoln.com.
Hey Stars fans, I'm Matthew Maltek, captain of your Lincoln Stars. Join us Saturday, January 25th, when we host the Omaha Lancers for Rivalry Night at the Icebox. Be here to rock the box and cheer us on. The boys need your support to keep giving us the best home ice advantage in the USHL. Purchase your tickets now for January 25th versus Omaha at LincolnStars.com.
Have you been injured in an accident and don't know where to turn? Do you need a lawyer you can trust to handle your case with professionalism and compassion? The attorneys at Liberty Law Group understand that a call to an attorney is a call for help. If you've been injured, we want to help you. Liberty Law's experienced attorneys are committed to the pursuit of justice for those injured. Contact us for a free consultation by calling 877-42-LIBERTY. Call Liberty Law and find out how we can help you get the compensation you deserve. Call 877-42-LIBERTY. Liberty Law Group, trial attorneys you can trust.
Ever wish you had another light switch on the other side of the room on a dark night? How much better would you sleep at night if you had a ceiling fan in your room? The High Electric Service Department is here to make your electrical what-ifs a reality. Whether you're looking to replace some outdated light fixtures or brighten up your counters with under-cabinet lighting, High Electric can handle all types of residential electrical installations and services. Give Erica a call at 402-466-6606 or visit high-electric.com to get started.
What's it take to be a mentor with big brothers, big sisters? It takes 30 minutes and a cup of coffee. A video game, best 2 out of 3. It takes sharing thumbs up emojis, clapping emojis, and loaded nachos at halftime. That's how you make an impact on a young kid's life. So go on, share a few hours a month, because mentorship may sound huge, but the truth is, it takes little to be big. To learn more, volunteer, or donate, go to BeBigNow.org.
Golfing in 72 degrees and perfect conditions in Nebraska doesn't seem possible in the winter, but it is. Double Eagle Golf is your escape from the bone-chilling cold outside and a reason to keep your clubs out year-round. Book a bay with some friends for a weekend or come by for golf and happy hour on a weekday. Spring leagues begin in February. Get signed up today. That's all at Double Eagle Golf inside the Kinetic Sports Complex at West O Street. Online at doubleeagle.golf.
Back to the Corner 3 on 93.7 The Ticket. Here is your host, Austin Oerman.
This is the Corner 3 here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. My name is Austin Oerman. You hear me here Friday nights from 6 to 7 talking some college hoops. Also with you 2 to 4 weekdays during On the Block and 4 to 6 for Old School. 402-464-5685 is the number to our starter Heyman Jewelers text line. And we got one from Phil. Phil, appreciate you. I know you're around on the ticket pretty much all day, especially here in the afternoons. Good to hear from you. He says, I may have missed this, but did you even consider Bryce McGowan as an honorable mention? I don't think he's a starter by any stretch, but I don't think I heard you mention his name. Phil, that is a good call. Bryce McGowan was indeed on my list. I did neglect to mention him and skipped right over him. So appreciate that. The rationale for Bryce McGowan was he was good. And I don't want to buy into the narrative, right? I don't think Bryce was necessarily the problem. I don't think that there were fair expectations for Bryce to come in and be the savior and take that team to heights that I'm not saying he wasn't capable of, but especially not with, shall we say, that roster around him, right? I mean, Bryce took a lot of shots. I don't know if that was by design or if that was on Bryce, but either way, and the numbers were fine for Bryce McGowan. Let me go back and get him pulled up here so I don't speak out of turn. 21-22 Nebraska. Bryce McGowan was the leading scorer on the team, 16.8 points per game to go along with 5 rebounds. I mean, Bryce was the second leading rebounder on the team and also tied for the second most assists on the team behind Alonzo Verge. Bryce was a good player, right? I don't want to hate on Bryce McGowan, right? Big Ten all-freshman team, probably should have been Big Ten freshman of the year over Malachi Branham, who I think got a boost because of Ohio State's team success and Nebraska's lack of it. Bryce's numbers, 40% overall, shooting the ball 27% from 3 and 83% at the free throw line. Bryce was a good player, right? I don't think Nebraska would have been better had he not been on the roster, especially that roster. He had the ball in his hands a lot, probably too much for a guy that was, slight of frame. He was skinny, playing in a big physical Big Ten conference. I wish Nebraska would have moved him off the ball a little bit more. They did toward the end of the year, but I think early in the year it was, Bryce is our best player. Go get yours. Everyone else can fill in around. Don't know if that was necessarily the move. There were just so many good shooting guard seasons from Fred Hoiberg guys, right? I mean, Casey had a better year and more team success. Naz Long, I think, was a more well-rounded player. Impacted winning a little bit more than Bryce McGowan's did. Tyrus McGee is a name that gets slept on. I'd probably move Bryce McGowan's over him. What Matt Thomas was able to do just as a floor spacer, he played his role probably a little bit better than Bryce McGowan's. Now, it was a simplified role down from what Bryce McGowan's has. Don't get me wrong. Even a guy like Will Clyburn, a transfer from Utah, did some good stuff for Fred. So Bryce is probably in that next wave of guys. If I went to more than 12, he certainly would have been in consideration. But I wasn't going to put Bryce ahead of Casey. I think Naz Mitru-Long was just a little better player and had a better year or two in his role than Bryce McGowan's did. So you could talk me into Bryce McGowan's being the third best shooting guard that Fred Hoiberg has coached. In his role or in that role, I would probably take another guy or two maybe ahead of him. But yes, I did neglect to mention Bryce McGowan. That was an oversight on my part. I appreciate you getting me up to speed on that one there, Phil. Again, 402-464-5685. Let's talk about this, Husker fans. What are your expectations for Nebraska on the road at Wisconsin? What are your expectations? Are they doom and gloom? Are you holding out a glimmer of hope? Are you somewhere in the middle? Let me know, 402-464-5685. Of course, that Bryce McGowan's team at the end of the year went on the road and knocked off Wisconsin. It was in the final game of the regular season right before the Big Ten tournament. Nebraska went to the Kohl Center and beat a Wisconsin team that would end the year 24-6 by a final score of 74-73. Nebraska was up by 4 at halftime. Not exactly a beautiful game, right? Wisconsin hammered Nebraska on the offensive glass. Wisconsin turned the ball over less than Nebraska did, got to the line more than Nebraska did. CJ Wilcher had 10 points for Nebraska. It was Alonzo Verge, 10 of 16 overall, 26 points, 6 assists for him. Derek Walker had 15 and 7 for Nebraska, and then some bit contributions down the line for Wisconsin in that one. Brad Davison in his senior day led Wisconsin in points with 20 of them, but was just 5 of 15 overall and 3 of 9 from 3. Tyler Wall had 13, Johnny Davis 10, and Chris Vogt off the bench had 13 for Nebraska. And then, of course, we can go back to last year for Nebraska on the road at Wisconsin. It did not go nearly as well. Let me get the schedule pulled up here. I'm on the roster and the stats when I need the schedule page. Nebraska comes off of a pretty good winning streak. They beat They lose to Creighton, right? They lose on the road at Minnesota in a game they lead at half. And then Nebraska goes on a bit of a winning streak. They beat Michigan State 77-70 in one of the best games I've seen in person. That was such a well-played basketball game. They go down and they beat Kansas State. They wrap up non-con with wins over North Dakota and South Carolina State here at Pinnacle Bank Arena. Then they beat Wisconsin at home before going on the road to Wisconsin. They were ranked number 21 at the time, and this would have been the second game of 2024 for the Huskers. Wisconsin, I seem to recall shooting the lights out. I'm trying to get the box score pulled up here. Yeah, I mean, Wisconsin's offensive rating was 131 in that game, which for those who don't know what offensive rating is, out of 100 possessions, how many points are you expected to score? If this would have been a 100-possession game, numbers tell you Wisconsin would have been expected to put up 131 points. They were up 13 at the break, and it was 51-38 Badgers. For Wisconsin in that game, leading scorer was Tyler Wall. He had 17. He got 13 from Chucky Hepburn, 10 from A.J. Storr, 12 from John Blackwell, who's going to be a guy we talk about here in just a minute. And Connor Seaton came off the bench out of the doghouse for Greg Gard and hit 4 of his 7 3-point attempts to be tied for third on Wisconsin in scoring in that game. The Badgers shot 13 of 26 from long range. Yeah, that's going to sink in. Nebraska didn't play terribly on offense. I mean, they shoot 49% overall. Nebraska even goes 12 of 26 from 3. Just one fewer make on the same number of attempts from Wisconsin. Only gets the free throw line 2 fewer times. But Nebraska only grabs 25 rebounds in this game to Wisconsin's 31. Not a lot of missed shots going on there. But it was the avalanche early for Wisconsin that had the Badgers in control. But, of course, Nebraska would bounce back and have the second biggest win of their regular season at home over Wisconsin. That came after a road loss to Maryland by 22 points. To start February, it was a Thursday. Wisconsin came here to Pinnacle Bank Arena. I actually had to watch this game from afar. I was attending my aunt's funeral around that time. But why did I pull up that game? I need the other game. Here we go. Yep. So 80-72, Nebraska ends up winning that game in overtime. Wisconsin was up 16 points at half, 43-27. Nebraska had a 40-24 second half, and then won overtime 13-5. The heroes for Nebraska last year, Bryce Williams has 17. Rink Mast has 20. Neither of them were the leading scorer. That was the C.J. Wilcher game. He goes 5 of 7 from 3, sparks Nebraska in that second half. I believe game high 22 points for CJ. No, A.J. Storr kept Wisconsin in it with 28, but a team high 22 for CJ. And Nebraska split the season series with Wisconsin last year. Quick overview of Wisconsin's numbers, just because we haven't gotten to it much with some bigger picture conversations on Husker basketball throughout the week. According to Ken Pomeroy, this is the number 9 offense in the country and the number 56 defense. Not really what we're used to from Wisconsin. According to Bart Torvik, again, top 10 sort of offense in that 6 to 9 range, but the number 71 defense in the country. And Evan Miyakawa has Wisconsin right now as the 6th best team in the conference with the number 9 offense and the number 48 defense. So a little bit out of balance for Wisconsin in terms of offense and defense. I still think of Wisconsin as a slower play through the post sort of program. That's not necessarily the case anymore. Of course, this is a program that lost Chucky Hepburn and A.J. Storr to the transfer portal. And I thought it was pretty much wraps for Wisconsin. I really did. Tyler Wall now gone as well. But here's the thing. John Tanji is having probably his best year in college, leading Wisconsin in scoring 17 points per game. That's an Omaha Central product. John Blackwell has taken a step up. He was a fun piece off the bench for the Badgers last year as a freshman. He's averaging 16 points, 5 rebounds per game, helping run the show for them. You get Steven Crowell, the true 7-footer, Nolan Winter as a sophomore. Both those guys averaging 10.4 points and 5.5 rebounds per game. Klesmit is still shooting the cover off the ball, averaging 10 points per game. Kamari McGee has slotted in there as a senior. Not necessarily as deep a Wisconsin team as we're used to seeing. Xavier Amos was a name Nick brought up. I don't know if that was yesterday. Yeah, it would have been yesterday for the basketball show. That Wisconsin beat Nebraska for out of the transfer portal. Not doing a whole lot, only averaging 4 points and 2 rebounds per game. But those top 6 guys for Wisconsin, Tanji, Blackwell, Crowell, Winter, Klesmit, and McGee, have pretty much been enough for the Badgers, who went on a 3-game losing streak in the early middle part of their year, lost by 3 to Michigan, lost by 14 on the road to Marquette, and then lost by 6 to Illinois. But since then, it's been a win over Butler, a win over Detroit Mercy in non-con. They beat Iowa 116 to 85 at the Kohl Center. Yeah, we're not used to seeing Wisconsin put up mid-80s points, let alone allow mid-80s points, let alone win a game where they allow points in the mid-80s, because they put up 116 on Iowa. We got to check this box score. We really have to just check this one out. I remember talking about it a little bit at the time. Wisconsin scored 54 points in the first, but 62 in the second, an offensive rating of 152. That is ungodly. That is obscene. For Wisconsin in that game, it was John Blackwell who went 11 of 18 overall, 6 of 10 from 3 on his way to 32 points. Nolan Winter had 18. Stephen Crowell had 14. John Tanji, a quiet 12 for him. You get Kamari McGee with 12 off the bench, and then some deeper bench guys contributing from there. Wisconsin that night, 21 made threes on 31 attempts. Woo. That is beyond scorching. That is beyond incendiary. And it's not necessarily something we're used to seeing from Wisconsin, right? They're typically a slower and try to be efficient offense. Greg Gard's evolved. He has a different team this year than he's had before, and he's really made it work for him. So then since that Iowa game as well for Wisconsin, it was an impressive 12-point win on the road at Rutgers. They also beat Minnesota by 21. Had a tight one. They beat Ohio State by 2. They beat USC by 15 on the road. But in their last game, it was a 2-point loss on the road at Pauley Pavilion to UCLA. Bruins carve them up for 85 points, an offensive rating of 126. Wisconsin actually led that one at the break. But for UCLA, in the end, it was pretty good balance. Ade Mara had probably his best game as a Bruin with 22 points and 5 rebounds. Sebastian Mack returned in a big way, ended up with 19 points. Sky Clark with 12, Tyler Bilodeau with 16, and Dylan Andrews with 10. So if you're Nebraska and you see that, you see Ade Mara with 22, you see Tyler Bilodeau with 16, that tells me Andrew Morgan, as long as he's healthy, he was questionable before Nebraska's game against USC. It tells me that there's maybe an avenue for him to get going. And really, most importantly for Nebraska, I think it comes down to making Wisconsin work on defense, right? You're not going to be able to keep pace with them. We haven't seen Nebraska keep pace with the team really since North Florida, I would say, consistently. And that was probably the worst defense Nebraska will face all year. Wisconsin is not a great defense, but certainly not that bad. Can Nebraska make Tanji and Blackwell work on defense? Can Nebraska get Crowell and Winter into foul trouble? If they can do that, I think the Huskers will have a chance in this one. But the Kohl Center has not necessarily been kind to the Huskers. They've played up there a lot, so they do have a couple wins in program history, but it's also been a place of some horrors for Nebraska. So we'll get to your thoughts on Nebraska, Wisconsin. That's how we'll wrap up the Corner 3 right after this.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Cobble Chevrolet GMC, and we wanted to give a special shout out to all of our great customers, thanking you all for a record-setting year in 2024. Now let's get the new year rolling with some big savings. Right now at Cobble, we have some of the biggest discounts in the area with over $12,000 off list price or 0% APR on select new models. So stop on in the dealership or hit us up online at cobblecars.com to get true low country overhead in action. $12,000 off list or 0% APR right now at Cobble. So please stop on in or visit us at cobblecars.com. You'll be glad you did.
Hey Stars fans, I'm Matthew Maltek, captain of your Lincoln Stars. Join us Saturday, January 25th, when we host the Omaha Lancers for rivalry night at the Icebox. Be here to rock the box and cheer us on. The boys need your support to keep giving us the best home ice advantage in the USHL. Purchase your tickets now for January 25th versus Omaha at LincolnStars.com.
Your high schooler in sports, or for yourself in your sports leisures. But buying new is awfully expensive. Why not go somewhere with new and used options? Play It Again Sports has quality, slightly to gently used equipment, and 50% of their inventory is actually new equipment. And it's more than baseball, softball, and golf. They also have equipment for disc golf, fitness, hockey, and more. Plus, they're always buying products. Bring your gear you're done with and get trade money on the spot. Play it against sports at 48th and Vine.
When you need a new water heater, nothing beats the ProLine family of water heaters from A.O. Smith. ProLine models are built using commercial-grade components, meaning they're built to help you tackle your toughest days. No matter if you need a gas or electric model, A.O. Smith has a ProLine unit for you. A.O. Smith, innovation has a name. Call Bryant at 402-467-1111 for a great deal on a water heater today. Again, that's 402-467-1111.
What's it take to be a mentor with big brothers, big sisters? It takes 30 minutes and a cup of coffee. A video game, best 2 out of 3. It takes sharing thumbs up emojis, clapping emojis, and loaded nachos at halftime. That's how you make an impact on a young kid's life. So go on, share a few hours a month, because mentorship may sound huge, but the truth is, it takes little to be big. To learn more, volunteer, or donate, go to bebignow.org.
The Body Lab, located at 14th and Yankee Hill, is Lincoln's premier physical therapy and recovery lab. The Body Lab offers trigger point dry needling, cupping therapy, joint manipulation, and so much more. Looking to relax and relieve stress after a long day or difficult workout? The Body Lab's recovery lab is the ideal spot. Featuring infrared sauna, a cold plunge tub, or if you're just looking for enough space to stretch out and reset your mind. Learn more about memberships and schedule your service today at thebodylablnk.com. Or visit the Body Lab in person at 14th and Yankee Hill Road.
Hi, everyone. Kendall Warnock, A1 Automotive in downtown Lincoln. The last few years have been wild, but we've been here for you through all the ups and downs, and we'll be here for you when you need us the most, for all your travels and for your day-to-day driving. With winter conditions causing problems all over town, the last thing anyone needs this year is constant car troubles. Let us help you drive in peace and make sure you drive to work and to winter destinations safe. A1 Automotive, 11th and L Street downtown, always honest answers.
Raising little ones is a big job, and you do your best to give them a good start every day. That means making sure they're well cared for while you're apart. You work hard, but it's not always easy to make ends meet. There may be help. Find out if you qualify for Nebraska's Child Care Tax Credit for working parents. You could be eligible for a credit of up to $2,000 per child on your next tax return. Learn more at nebraskachildcaretaxcredit.org. Brought to you by First 5 Nebraska and Nebraska Children and Families Foundation and aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Discover the difference that expertise and experience can make in your real estate journey with Next Ag Appraisal and Realty. Whether you need an appraisal, sales, or farm management, Next Ag comes up with a solution with your legacy and goals in mind. Next Ag isn't just their name, it's your future. So why wait? Visit their website today at www.nextagrealestate.com or give them a call at 402-380-0432 and turn your dreams into reality. Your land, your legacy, their solutions. Next Ag Appraisal and Realty.
In every office, there's 2 types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels & Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday. You lost Wednesday. You're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels & Joe.
Back to the Corner 3 on 93.7 The Ticket. Here is your host, Austin Oerman.
Welcome back in one final time here to the Corner 3 on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. We're headed straight to our starter Heyman Jewelers text line here. Phil says, just don't get beat down the way Iowa did. That's my hope and expectation. We'll get into how Nebraska can prevent that here in just a sec. Then 8985 says, I'm still holding out hope that Nebraska rights the ship and goes on a run at the end of the season. Nebraska has proven they can beat good teams. They've also proven they can help anybody beat them as well. Definitely need to get out of the bottom 3 spots in the conference to try and make some noise in the tournament. That's why I'm not exactly writing Nebraska off, because we've seen this before, right? You talk about the Gary and the Bandemel injuries before. Well, yeah, Nebraska went on a 4-game losing streak at that point and didn't get to 5, but it was 5 out of 6. But Nebraska found something that worked in the rotation, right? We had the Sam Hoiberg breakout. Casey really started to emerge at that point. Derek Walker started playing better as well. So it's not out of the question for Fred Hoiberg to take a look at his roster, to reevaluate it, to figure out what he has available to him and find out a way to make it work. We've seen it before, and it wasn't really that long ago. If Nebraska is going to make that happen on the road in Madison, number one is going to be preventing fouls on defense. Wisconsin is the best, number one overall free throw shooting team in the country. As a team, the Badgers make 85% of their free throws. 85%. Led by Tanji, who's leading the conference at 93% right now. John Blackwell's at 83%. Crowell, a big man, is at 85%. Winter, another big man, 82%. Klesmit's an 86% shooter. Kamari McGee is at 84% as well. Even Amos, when he gets in the game, 80%. Carter Gilmore, young guy, that's 71% as well. It doesn't really matter who you foul. Wisconsin is not leaving points at the free throw line. In fact, this year, they're 347 for 406 from the free throw line. They don't get there at an elite rate. They're certainly above average. They get there at a pretty healthy clip. But it's not like Wisconsin is just putting its head down, trying to get to the rim and getting bailed out by foul calls. No, because the Badgers actually do shoot a fair amount of their shots from three. So far this year, 35% of Wisconsin's points have come from three, 43% from two, and then the remainder at the free throw line. That's a little different distribution than we're used to Wisconsin, at least in terms of the narrative. So I think for Nebraska, it's going to be imperative to stay out of foul trouble. And it might be difficult for Nebraska, right? Crowell and Winter, pretty crafty inside. They have good post moves. That's what Wisconsin's kind of known for. And then also the guards, right? Tanji's a pretty decent athlete. Blackwell's a really good athlete. Klesmit, one of those guys that knows how to draw fouls. He's a veteran. He's savvy. If Nebraska can stay out of foul trouble and force tough shots right in that mid-range that Nebraska was so good at last year, instead of letting Wisconsin get to the free throw line and camp out around the perimeter and shoot threes, there's a way for Nebraska to make it work. And this is not a great Wisconsin team. They don't turn teams over. So Nebraska has to avoid the dumb giveaways to let a quick team get out on the break and run. That's paramount for Nebraska. You also have to, I think, look at Nebraska shooting it better than they have from three, to be fair, right? Teams against Wisconsin only shoot 31%. If Nebraska only shoots 31% from three, probably going to be a long night for the Huskers, right? Wisconsin shoots at 35.5% as a team. That's pretty good. Wisconsin's also super efficient from two. Helps when you have a 6'11" to 7-foot guy in athletic guard. So if Nebraska can make Wisconsin earn everything on the offensive end and then slow down in the half court and execute, right? The game plan for Nebraska is pressure up on them, but Wisconsin doesn't necessarily force a lot of steals. Ball pressure isn't the name of their game like Nebraska's maybe seen from some other teams recently. Now, does Wisconsin smell blood in the water, pressure out on the perimeter, and make things hard for Nebraska? I could definitely see it. But if Nebraska takes care of the ball, if they dig in a little bit on defense and force Wisconsin to take tougher shots, there's a path for the Huskers. There really is a path. Do I see it? I don't know. Ken Pom has it, an 8-point Wisconsin win. And hey, guess what? Bart Torvik has an 8-point win for Wisconsin as well. Both places predicting the same score of 79-71. That would feel very similar, I bet, to the USC game where Nebraska ends up losing 78-73. Huskers still looking to get off that 5-game losing streak. They will do that on Sunday, or at least attempt to do so on Sunday. Thanks for tuning into the Corner 3. Make sure you come back with us on Sunday for postgame. For everyone here, it's been a great day here at The Ticket. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks to our great sponsors, especially Starter Heyman Jewelers and Aloe, for everything they've done for us here on this show. For the crew, I'm Austin. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning with Ticket Weekends.
Discover the difference that expertise and experience can make in your real estate journey with Next Ag Appraisal and Realty. Whether you need an appraisal, sales, or farm management, Next Ag comes up with a solution with your legacy and goals in mind. Next Ag isn't just their name, it's your future. So why wait? Visit their website today at www.nextagrealestate.com or give them a call at 402-3